It was a chilly morning in downtown Portland when Captain Monica Harris, a decorated Army veteran, walked into the bustling Sunrise Bistro. The early morning sunlight painted the streets in soft golden hues, but the bistro was already alive with the hum of conversation, the clatter of dishes, and the hiss of the espresso machine. Fresh off a red-eye flight, Monica craved nothing more than a quiet breakfast and a steaming cup of coffee. She carried a worn duffel bag, its fabric frayed at the edges, a testament to years of travel and service. Little did she know, her morning would take an unforgettable turn. Emma, a young waitress with a nervous energy, was clearing tables when she first noticed Monica. Her eyes lingered on the duffel bag, her curiosity morphing into suspicion. Tightening her apron strings, Emma approached with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Good morning," she said, her tone polite but wary. "Can I help you with something?" Monica glanced around the bistro before replying, her voice steady and calm. "Just here for breakfast." She moved toward a table by the window. Emma hesitated, her gaze flicking to the duffel bag. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I need to ask what's in the bag." Her tone was courteous, but there was a thread of tension beneath the surface. Monica set the bag down gently and looked up, her brow furrowing slightly. "Just my personal belongings," she replied evenly. "I've been traveling." Emma shifted uncomfortably, casting a glance toward her colleague Jake behind the counter. "It's just we've had some issues with security," she said, her voice faltering as she tried to explain. Monica's jaw tightened slightly, though her tone remained calm. "I see, but unless you think there's something dangerous in my bag, I'm not sure why it's a concern." Emma's cheeks flushed. "It's just protocol," she murmured, wringing her hands. I'll need to ask you to leave." Monica's patience wore thin. "Leave? For what reason? I haven't done anything but order breakfast." Emma's nervousness escalated as the attention of nearby patrons began to shift their way. "If you don't leave, I'll have to call the police." "Go ahead," Monica said, her voice calm but edged with steel. "If that's how you want to handle this, call them." Emma fumbled for her phone, her hands trembling. She muttered something about following rules as she dialed. Jake, sensing the growing tension, approached. "What's going on?" he asked, his tone cautious. Emma explained haltingly, pointing to Monica's duffel bag. Jake turned to Monica, attempting a more measured approach. "Ma'am, would you mind if we just took a look in your bag? It's nothing personal, just to clear things up." Monica's gaze sharpened. "You want to search my bag because it looks suspicious, or because I do?" The question hung in the air, the tension in the room thickening. Before Jake could respond, the bistro door swung open, and two police officers stepped inside. Their eyes scanned the room, locking onto Monica. The taller of the two officers, a woman with a stern expression, approached the table. "We received a call about a disturbance," the officer said curtly. "What seems to be the problem here?" Monica's frustration was evident. "There's no problem," she said, her voice measured. "I'm just trying to have breakfast. Apparently, my bag is cause for concern." Emma, now visibly shaken, stammered. She refused to leave." The officer turned to Monica. "Ma'am, would you mind if we looked inside the bag? Just to clear this up." Monica's patience finally snapped. "No, I do mind," she said sharply. "But if you insist, go ahead. Let's settle this." She unzipped the bag and placed it on the table. Inside were neatly folded clothes, a few toiletries, and a framed photograph wrapped in a towel. Monica carefully unwrapped the photo, revealing an image of her and her fellow soldiers during her last deployment. The room fell silent. The officer stared at the photo, her expression softening. "You served?" she asked respectfully. Monica nodded. "I did, and this is how I'm treated." Emma's face turned pale. I didn't know," she whispered. I'm so sorry." Monica's gaze was steady. "No, you didn't ask. You assumed." The officer nodded, acknowledging the mistake. "There's nothing suspicious here," she said, addressing the room. "This woman is a veteran and has every right to be here." The patrons, who had been watching intently, began murmuring among themselves. Emma stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes. I, I didn't mean, she began. Intentions don't matter when actions are based on assumptions, Monica said quietly but firmly. At that moment, the bistro manager, David, stepped forward. His tailored suit and practiced smile carried an air of authority. Let's not blow this out of proportion, he said smoothly. We all make mistakes. Emma was just doing her job, trying to protect our customers. Monica's expression hardened. Protect them from what? She asked pointedly. A woman trying to have breakfast? David's smile faltered. I'm sorry you feel that way, he said, his tone carefully measured. But with everything happening in the world, we have to be cautious. Cautious? Monica repeated. If you were cautious, you'd ask everyone about their bags. But you didn't. You singled me out. David's face tightened. Let's be reasonable, he said. This was a misunderstanding. No, Monica replied firmly. It was perfectly clear. And instead of owning up to it, you're trying to justify it. Before David could respond, a patron stood up from the corner of the room, holding her phone. I've been recording this, she announced. People need to see how you treat veterans. Monica turned and walked out, the door chiming softly behind her. The next day, Monica sat at her kitchen table, reflecting on the incident, deciding to share her experience. She typed out a detailed post about the assumptions made and their real-world consequences. Her story quickly went viral, drawing widespread attention. The Sunrise Bistro faced a public outcry, prompting David to issue a formal apology and pledge staff retraining. They also announced a donation to a local veterans charity. A week later, Monica received an invitation to a charity breakfast at the bistro, benefiting the Wounded Warrior Project. Initially hesitant, she decided to attend. When she arrived, the atmosphere was noticeably different. Emma approached her cautiously, her voice trembling with emotion. I'm so sorry for how I treated you, she said. I've learned so much from that day. I hope you can forgive me. Monica looked at her and replied, forgiveness isn't what matters. What's important is that we learn and do better moving forward. The charity breakfast was a success, raising thousands of dollars and sparking conversations about respect and dignity. As Monica left the bistro, she felt a sense of closure. What began as a painful experience had become an opportunity for awareness, change, and growth, not just for her, but for everyone involved. ####. In the weeks following the charity breakfast, Monica found herself reflecting on the unexpected ripple effects of her story. Messages poured into her inbox from strangers across the country. Some were veterans sharing their own stories of mistreatment, while others were ordinary citizens expressing their gratitude for her bravery in speaking up. One message, in particular, stood out. It was from a young woman named Clara, a college student who had seen the video of Monica's confrontation at the bistro. Your story changed the way I think about my own biases. Clara wrote, I didn't realize how often I judge people without knowing their story. I want to do better. Reading Clara's words, Monica felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't just about her experience anymore. Her story was inspiring others to reflect, question, and grow. Monica decided to channel this momentum into action. She reached out to a local veterans organization, proposing a series of community workshops on unconscious bias and respect. The organization eagerly agreed, and within weeks, Monica found herself standing in front of a room filled with business owners, employees, and community leaders. Bias isn't always overt. Monica began, her voice steady but impassioned. Sometimes it's in the little assumptions we make about people, their clothes, their accent, the color of their skin. Those assumptions can have real consequences, as I'm sure many of you know. As she spoke, Monica saw nods of recognition ripple through the audience. She shared her story not as a lecture, but as a conversation starter, inviting attendees to examine their own experiences and perspectives. The workshops quickly gained traction, and soon, Monica was traveling to schools, churches, and community centers to share her message. She partnered with other veterans and advocates, creating a network of voices committed to fostering understanding and compassion. Back at the Sunrise Bistro, The changes were palpable. David, true to his word, implemented comprehensive training for his staff. Posters adorned the walls, highlighting the bistro's commitment to inclusivity and respect. Emma, now a vocal advocate for change, often shared her own experience with customers and coworkers, using it as a lesson in humility and growth. One afternoon, Monica returned to the bistro, this time accompanied by her friend and fellow veteran, Carlos. As they sat by the window, enjoying their coffee, Emma approached with a genuine smile. "Captain Harris," she said warmly, "I just wanted to thank you again, not just for your patience that day, but for everything you've done since. You've really made a difference here." Monica nodded, her expression softening. "It's not just me," she replied. "Change takes all of us." Carlos raised his mug in a silent toast, and Monica couldn't help but smile. The Sunrise Bistro, once the site of an uncomfortable confrontation, had become a symbol of growth and community. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Months later, Monica was invited to speak at a national veterans conference, standing on the stage in front of hundreds of attendees. She felt a familiar mix of nerves and determination. She began her speech the way she always did, with a story. "When I walked into a small bistro one morning, all I wanted was a cup of coffee and some peace," she said. "What I got instead was a lesson, a reminder of the work we still have to do." She shared the details of that morning, the assumptions made, and the aftermath. But more importantly, she spoke about what came next, the conversations, the workshops, the connections forged in the wake of adversity. "We all have a responsibility to each other," Monica concluded, her voice strong, "to see beyond the surface, to question our assumptions, and to create spaces where everyone feels valued. That's how we honor each other. That's how we build a better world." The audience rose to their feet, their applause filling the room. Monica's story had come full circle, transforming a moment of pain into a catalyst for change. As she stepped off the stage, Monica felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey was far from over, but she knew she wasn't walking it alone. And for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful for what lay ahead.